on YouTube? Welcome back to Scents of South Jersey with me, Kellen, for another fragrance review. Today we're going to be taking a look at a classic fragrance from 1981 from the house of Antonio Puig. It is none other than Quorum. So what we're going to do, as we always do in all of my individual fragrance breakdowns, we're going to take a look at the bottle and box presentation. I'll go over the fragrance's notes. I'll go over the fragrance's performance on my skin. From my experience wearing the fragrance, I'll give it my overall thoughts and then my overall rating. But what I'd like to do this time is do a little bit of then and now. We're going to compare the current formulation of Quorum to the vintage formulation. So I'm going to show you guys the differences and give you my thoughts. And we'll talk about, if I think it's worth getting the vintage or if the current one is going to be just fine to purchase it in its place. So let's jump into it. Before we do, I always want to say, if you're new to the channel and you enjoy fragrance reviews, especially ones about classic men's fragrances, please subscribe to support the channel and check out the Scents of South Jersey Instagram page for news and updates on the channel. And of course, photos of fragrances from my collection. Let's get started. All right, so let's start things off with the presentation. So taking a look at the current formulation of Quorum, I got it in a gift set. Of course I did, right? I got it in a gift set a long time ago. I'd say about 2 years ago, and it came with an aftershave and it came with the fragrance. So let's take a look at this. You can see here, green glass, Quorum. It is dark brown top. You got these gold sides here. It says Quorum Eau de Toilette, and then you got what it says right there, just the bottle size is a 100 ml bottle. And on the back, nothing going on. And on the bottom, you've got some brand information. It's actually embossed glass, and that says made in Spain by Antonio Puig. You take this off, you got this kind of cheap looking atomizer, but a golden neck crimp here, and it sprays nice and wide. It's not the best sprayer in the world. So let's take a look at what the vintage bottle would look like. Here it is. This is a 50 ml, and it says Quorum Eau de Toilette. And then in the bottom, it doesn't say the bottle size. It just says Antonio Puig there, which is kind of cool. Same type of cap, bottle's pretty much the same. And on the bottom here, there's actually a sticker. And this says, let's see, like Barcelona, Spain, New York, and and Paris as well. So whatever. And then here's what the neck looks like. So this one, you can see the white there. Sprayer's a lot bigger, and it sprays a lot more juice out. I noticed that as well. So the box. This is the vintage box. You can see the design is different. If you look at the Quorum from today, if you're just buying the individual bottle and you're looking at the box, it's going to be way different. It's like it's got a gradient that comes across kind of shiny, where this has this like green. It almost looks like a bunch of leaves all put together in these zigzag pattern there. Quorum on the front, you can see the side, that pattern wraps around. It's a nice looking box, and then some brand information. And you got your batch code there. The batch code for this box is 7C01. So these are all from 1993. And this is another one, same type of thing. You can take a look at it. This is the one I've actually been using. There's a lot less juice in there. And the distribution on this one is actually much better. Look at that spray compared again. We'll do it again. It's a lot. So that's the presentation for Quorum. All right, so let's take a look at the notes for Quorum by Antonio Puig. Again, early 80s fragrance. The notes, there's a lot of them, and I'll tell you which ones I pick up on. But in the top listed, you have Artemisia, Caraway, Lemon, Bergamot, and Grapefruit. And then in the heart of the fragrance, there's going to be Pine Tree, Sandalwood, Patchouli, Carnation, Jasmine, and Cyclamen. And then in the base, you have Oak Moss, Tobacco, Leather, and Amber. So to me, the base notes and some of the middle notes are the ones that you pick up. Like, I absolutely no way get any type of grapefruit in this fragrance. This is a green, spicy, woodsy fragrance. So Oak Moss, Leather, Tobacco, Pine Tree, and maybe some of the spices. That's what comes through. That's what this fragrance is. The other notes are apparently there, but I don't pick up on them. All right, guys, so the performance for Quorum by Antonio Puig. Let's talk about the current formulation. I hadn't worn this in a while, and then when I got the vintage bottle and I wanted to make this video, I actually wore it so I could, test that type of thing, test the performance. It's average. I get 5 hours. That's about it. There's not much more to it than that. I got around 5 hours. I would say closer to the last few hours of my workday. It faded out, and it was, I had to dig my nose into my hand to be able to smell it, whereas the vintage version and actually does outperform this one, significantly. It lasts a full workday. I'm getting hints of it on my way home. So the performance for the vintage is good. It's better than average, where this one falls short at around 5. But again, the price range, very inexpensive for pretty much both of these. So I can't really complain, but the performance on the vintage is much better. All right, guys, so my thoughts on Quorum, overall thoughts. I reviewed this fragrance. I don't know if any of you have ever seen it. I reviewed this one a long time ago on one of my first reviews, and I thought back then it was so-so, and the one I was reviewing was the current formulation. So when I first got it, I got it in the gift set. I used the fragrance. I never used the aftershave. And to me, it resembled too close. And I thought it was more rugged back then until I got the vintage. But I was like, oh, you know, it's just a spicy fragrance. It reminds me of Aramis. And back then, Aramis was my benchmark for classic men's spicy masculine. I didn't think anything was going to, top that in terms of its performance or how strong it was. So I kind of just didn't really take this one seriously. I shelved it and I didn't use it, put it down, didn't wear it until, right before I was making this video. And then one day I decided, I was just like, what the hell, let me try out the Quorum aftershave. And I was stunned at how much better the current formulation of the aftershave is than the current formulation of the eau de toilette. This was dark and green and spicy and rich, and it smelled awesome. And I was just like, are you kidding me? How could this be so much better? The aftershave, lower concentration than this. This has a sweetness, the current formulation, and you don't notice it until you get the vintage or until I smelled this. And I thought, yeah, this has a sweetness to it that, sticks around for the first hour. And I just don't really like it that much, whereas this did not have that. So after I applied the aftershave and I enjoyed the smell, I immediately sourced a bottle of vintage Quorum, and I found a seller and I got these two, $36, not expensive at all. I got 250 ml, so that equivalent to the 100 ml bottle, and this will last me a while. And this is one of those cases, and I don't want to be a vintage snob, and I've tried to make sure to point out that you don't always need to have the vintage formulation. It's not that much different. This is one of those cases where it's like night and day. This is a significantly better fragrance than the current formulation. I'd pass on getting the current formulation if you have a lot of fragrances. If you want something old school that to stand out, and you don't want to spend the $36 or more, because that seller may not have any more. I'm not sure, and I'll see if I can figure out who it was and let you guys know. But this one's okay. It's not a terrible fragrance. There's definitely fragrances that I've said I've hated. It's just not nearly as good as this. This one has got the rich oak moss and the pine, and it really comes through. And it's my scent of the day. So let's go at it here. Spray some on. It lasts. The dry down. A friend of mine named Al, who has sent me fragrances, and a shout out to Al. He used to say that when he's significantly older than me, he used to say that back in the day, it was all about the dry down. So that's really when this fragrance comes alive. At first, it's a little abrasive, a little bit of alcohol. And again, it's a 28-year-old bottle, so it's never gonna be the same smell as it was when it was released. I'm never gonna experience any of my vintage colognes, I don't think, that are gonna smell exactly the same as the day that they were released, because again, they've sat, there's a long time. I think it always is gonna change a little bit, some sort of, mutation in there, in that bottle. But it still smells awesome. And it smells way more rich than the current one. Obviously, the current one's been reformulated, So this is really good. But the dry down is green, it's mossy, it's leather, it's a pine, and it is just all the notes that I love. A lot of people compare this one to Polo, or for men, Polo Green, or Paco Rabanne. And I don't get comparisons. They share some of the similar notes, as many of the 80s fragrances did, but those two are just levels above this one. This one's good, and I really appreciate it now, but it's not nearly as good as those two, so don't think it's going to replace them at all. But I 100% agree. In this case, the vintage is absolutely better than the current formulation, and if you can get a bottle, absolutely do it. $36, I don't think that's that bad for a 50 ml. Good condition, and it lasts a long time. You only need a couple sprays, and when it dries down, it's absolutely awesome. And it can be a great daily fragrance. It's masculine, obviously. You can wear it. It's not going to be offensive at the office. It's not too strong. People may not be used to a scent like this, but that's what's great about these classic fragrances. They're different, and they smell, great. Masculine. They're rich. They're bold. I really enjoy them. And this one is, I'm glad I have the vintage, and I really appreciate it more now than I did when I just had this one. But it was because of the aftershave. That's what did it. So that's my thoughts. All right, guys, so my overall rating for Quorum by Antonio Puig. Let's take a look at the presentation. I really like the box. I do like the bottle. However, I think they should have made a built-in sprayer. It was the era of built-in sprayers. Built-in sprayers are the best. They look the coolest, so it's losing 2 points for that. 8 out of 10 for presentation. Performance on the vintage is excellent. It's over 8 hours, so it's going to get an 8 out of 10. It would be a lot less if we were looking at the current formulation. So, but again, I'm really reviewing this one. So 8 out of 10. Scent. It's a great scent. I really appreciate it. Smells really nice. It's rich. When it dries down, it's even better than the opening. I think that's the best part of Quorum. There are scents that people compare it to that I don't think are similar, but I think they're a lot better. You know what I mean? Your Polo Green is better. Your Paco Rabanne Quorum is better. But this one, you know, holds its own, and I really appreciate it now that I've, you know, tried the aftershave and the vintage version. This combo together is an awesome combination. So 7.5 out of 10 for a scent. Overall rating, you know, would be like a 7.8. So we'll round up and give it an 8 out of 10. So if you can get your hands on a vintage version of this fragrance, absolutely get it. One other thing, if you can get the body wash too, do that because it smells great. Anyway, that's the overall rating, 8 out of 10 for Quorum. All right, guys, that's a wrap. That's my review of Quorum by Antonio Puig. Let me know in the comment section, do you like this fragrance? Do you think it's just okay? Do you have the current formulation? Do you have the vintage? Which one do you like better? I love to hear from all of you guys, and I love all the interaction. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I will see you all in the next video. Take care.